Rachel walked briskly through the narrow alley, her coat pulled tight against the biting winter air of downtown New York. It was the same shortcut she used every evening after work, but tonight felt different. The streets were unusually quiet, the kind of silence that makes your skin prickle. Behind her, footsteps echoed, heavy and deliberate. Her heart pounded as she dared a glance over her shoulder. A tall figure in a dark hoodie was closing the distance between them. Panic set in. She gripped her purse and quickened her pace, but the man only came faster. Before she could scream or run, he reached out and grabbed her arm. She froze, eyes wide with fear, certain she was about to be attacked. But instead of violence, he leaned in close and whispered, "Keep walking. Don't look back." His voice wasn't threatening, it was urgent. Confused and terrified, Rachel obeyed, sensing something deeper behind his words. She kept moving, aware now of other footsteps behind them. Quieter, slower, more sinister. The man stayed beside her, his hand on her arm not to harm her, but to steady her. After a few more tense steps, he spun around and shouted toward the figures trailing them. They scattered. Rachel's fear was replaced with stunned realization. This stranger hadn't been stalking her, he had been protecting her. What she thought was the beginning of an attack became the beginning of an unforgettable act of courage that would change her view of humanity forever. Rachel's instincts screamed at her to run, but something in the man's voice, calm yet urgent, made her keep walking. He didn't let go of her arm. Instead, he stayed right beside her, matching her pace. Every step felt like a lifetime, her heartbeat thundered in her ears. That's when she heard them, two more sets of footsteps behind them, moving in sync, whispering in tones too low to make out but unmistakably threatening. She realized this wasn't paranoia. She was being followed. The man beside her tightened his grip slightly, not to restrain her, but as if anchoring her to safety. "Just a few more steps," he said under his breath. Rachel wanted to cry, scream, do anything but walk, but she did. And then, suddenly, the man stopped and turned around. His voice cut through the night like a blade, "Get lost." His shout startled Rachel, but it terrified the men behind them. She saw them hesitate, then vanish into the shadows without a word. The alley was silent again. Rachel was stunned. This man, whom she thought was a threat, had been her protector all along. He hadn't just saved her from a possible attack, he'd placed himself between her and danger without hesitation. The fear she felt began to dissolve, replaced by an overwhelming sense of confusion, relief, and gratitude. Something inside her shifted. She no longer saw a stranger, she saw someone who had stepped up when no one else would. 15 minutes later, the warmth of a small diner offered Rachel a fragile sense of safety. She sat across from the man who, moments ago, she had feared. His hood was now down, revealing tired eyes and a face weathered not just by time, but by life. His name was Elijah. They sat in silence for a moment, the weight of everything that had just happened hanging in the air. Rachel finally asked, "Why did you follow me?" Elijah looked down at his chipped coffee cup, then back at her. "Years ago, I was jumped in that same alley," he said. "I had just lost my job. No home. No one cared." His voice was soft but firm. "I screamed for help, but no one came." Rachel felt a lump rise in her throat. "When I saw you walking in there alone," he continued, "I knew what those guys were waiting for. I saw myself in you. And I couldn't let it happen again. Not while I could stop it." Rachel blinked back tears. This man, whom she'd assumed was dangerous, had lived through pain she couldn't imagine. And chose to act out of compassion rather than bitterness. He didn't owe her anything. Yet he'd risked his own safety to protect her. In that quiet corner booth, two strangers, brought together by fear, found a moment of shared humanity. Elijah's past had given him pain, but it had also given him purpose. Later that night, Rachel lay wide awake in her apartment, the city humming faintly outside her window. But her mind wasn't on the noise or the chill in the air, it was on Elijah. His face kept reappearing in her thoughts, not shadowed and intimidating as it had first seemed, but calm, kind, and deeply human. She replayed every moment in her head, the fear, the footsteps, his warning, and then, his voice in the diner, filled with quiet pain and strength. A man with nothing, who had chosen to step in for a stranger. Not because it was easy. Because it was right. Driven by curiosity, she opened her laptop and typed his name, Elijah Carter. She searched news articles, shelters, social media. Anything. But there was nothing. No story. No recognition. No praise. It was as if he didn't exist. But Rachel knew better. She didn't need an internet search to confirm what she felt. Elijah was real. His story was real. And more than that, his courage was real. He didn't need the world to know his name. As she sat in the soft glow of her desk lamp, Rachel whispered to herself, "Some heroes don't wear capes, they wear scars." A man with a wounded past had become a guardian for someone he didn't even know. And in that moment, she realized something powerful: sometimes, the people we fear are the ones sent to protect us. 1 week later, Rachel walked into the same diner, clutching a small bag and a folder. Her eyes scanned the booths until she saw him, Elijah, sitting alone, sipping the same cup of coffee, worn hoodie still zipped to the neck. But this time, there was no fear between them. Only recognition, and something deeper. She slid into the seat across from him and gently placed the items on the table: clean clothes, a list of job openings, and a voucher for a local hotel. Elijah looked at them, then at her. "You saved me," Rachel said, her voice trembling. "Let me help you start again." For a moment, he said nothing. His eyes glistened, but he blinked the emotion away. Then, slowly, softly, he smiled. Not the polite smile of someone accepting charity, but the genuine smile of a man who hadn't felt seen in years. Maybe even decades. He didn't say thank you. He didn't have to. In that small exchange, something unspoken passed between them, something bigger than gratitude. It was connection. Respect. Hope. Two strangers, brought together by chance and fear, had changed the course of each other's lives. Not with grand gestures, but with compassion. With choice. Because kindness isn't random. It's brave. It's intentional. And when it's shared, it spreads.